What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Be the Light podcast with your host. I'm Marissa.
And I'm Sierra.
We're not trying to be perfect. We're just trying to be raw, real, and relatable.
Let's light it up.
1, 2, 3.
There we go. Loads better. Yeah.
Okay, so you had it connected to the wrong speaker.
Oh, okay. It's okay. I'm still learning how to use this thing. So,
That's awesome. You're so legit.
Yeah. Well, I'm having to do a podcast for the guy that I do my off-season training with. So now that we're doing that, it has to be like the image that the guy who's directing us. So I was like, oh, this is very extra for like the 3 people that have paid attention, to our podcast. Cause it's like, we only have like maybe 5 videos up. So it's like not really going just yet. Like we have to get like 30 videos before it's really like a thing. And our schedules are so crazy. Like, I think we've been trying to do podcasts for like 4 months now. We've done 5 of them.
It's funny. We were literally just talking before you got on about how, I don't know. I was saying like, well, we need to do this to keep us more on track. And Marissa's like, well, it's only been like a little over a year. Like, we just keep growing and, so we get it.
Yeah, no, it's schedules get crazy. Setting aside like a solid amount of time to do this, just even like once a week, it can be a bit hectic. So I like looked through the YouTube channel and everything. You guys have so much stuff on there. Like I went back and I think I watched like 6 of them in preparation for this, just because I didn't know they were on YouTube until I went through the Instagram and I was like, oh my God. Okay. So like I went and had to listen to a few of them. I really enjoyed it. I was like, I think I listened to like 3 of them last night. So
Oh, thank you. That means so much. Yeah, it's definitely a learn as you go kind of thing. I know at one point we just asked the people that were listening, like, where do you listen to your podcast? And a lot of people said YouTube. So we were like, well, I guess we need to be on YouTube. So yeah, it's a learn as you go kind of deal. But
yeah, it really is.
Colleen, this is Marissa.
Sorry. So nice to meet you. We just got off on like a whole thing. I'm so sorry. It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
So since we're already recording, I guess we'll just kind of jump right in.
Oh, it's already going. Okay. Love it.
Which is fine. We'll trim it however it needs to be. But so you and I have known each other for how long? Since middle school, maybe?
Yeah, because I started playing soccer grade 6. And then I guess whenever you moved over, was it Smyrna Rapids? Was that the name of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, look at my shirt that I wore in honor.
Stop. That is like the best thing I have ever seen.
And it was funny because I was like, I wonder if it's hanging in my closet. And there it was.
That is amazing. I put together one bin as I got ready to start my travels abroad. To just save from like college and like youth stuff. Cause also like, my mother, she has like a billion boxes of all my stuff. So I like was able to take a few things, and I believe that shirt is one of the ones that I still have in the bin, but I haven't opened it in like 3 or 4 years. So when I go back, I'll have to go back and see if that's the one I've got. But I've got like our state championship tournament and all that. Like I've got a handful of them just because we had so much gear. I think we got new gear every year that I couldn't keep it all.
And all the memories, Colleen.
Oh, stop. You've definitely seen my mother recently.
Yeah. So we talked about on the podcast our trip down to Florida and how we were going to meet up with a lady down there who had interest in what we were doing. And so now for everyone listening, this is her daughter, Colleen. Colleen and I met through soccer. We played on the same team all the way through high school. 2 of the same teams, actually. We played on 2 teams together. So
yes, we did.
We've just been like kind of randomly chit-chatting here. So let me kind of straighten us up. You are in Iceland right now, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So I guess just tell us how you got to Iceland.
Oh, that is a story and a half. So right as we were both going through like the college recruiting and stuff, I decided to go to Mobile, and decided to do my 4 years at Mobile. There was a hiccup, between sophomore and junior year. I almost went to Tennessee because like that was like the dream school. And, I
I
was
didn't know
really tempted. Yeah, I kind of kept it like hush hush because I
that.
might not have followed all the rules to make that happen.
Nope.
But it's okay. They can't do anything now. But I was tempted with what my dream was. And instead of realizing what I had, and
Mhm.
I like messed up actually a ton through that summer, trying to figure out, do I pursue it, and that was really like the turning point actually with my relationship with the Lord. Like in high school, I came to know Christ, but I had gotten comfortable, I guess is the best way to put it. And then this was a massive journey that summer for me, because it was kind of like dangling candy in front of me, like
Mhm.
that was the dream. I always wanted to play D1. And I mean, through the college recruiting, like we only looked at Division 1s, and then
Right.
Mobile out of nowhere. And I was like, this
Yeah.
is where I'm supposed to go. Dang it. Cause it was a NAIA school. It wasn't an
Yeah.
NCAA. And, but the minute I touched Mobile's campus, I knew that's where I was supposed to be.
Mhm.
And it was overwhelming. And like, because that's not what I had envisioned for my life and what I prepared for all these years. And the minute I drove on campus, I was like, this is where I'm going, like, like kind of a letdown, but also like the people there and everything just made it worth it, and so that sophomore to junior summer, I was playing actually for Alabama FC, that
Okay.
WPSL team. And one of the girls that plays for Tennessee at the time told me after the match, she's like, hey, you should email our coach. And I was like, no, I'm happy with Mobile, and she's like, you should email him. I was like, don't tempt me with a good time, trying to wave it off. And she was like, call him. And I was like, okay. So, like she didn't have to like tease me too hard. So I like pursued it. And, I told myself, if, my coach will let me talk to them, just like let me, cancel my like signature to sign like for the next year, just to talk to them, just to see what the offer was. I'll do it.
Mhm.
He said no. And I thought he was being selfish. So I did it anyways. And, and it sounds so bad, but like I was just too headstrong instead of just like listening to the Lord. And I was like, I don't really think that counts, So I still tiptoed. And then I found out, okay, I have to sit a year. If I'm going to go to Tennessee, I have to sit a year so that it doesn't cancel things. And so then I looked at Motlow and I told myself, I was like, okay, if it's 18 hours, I'll do it. If it's anything more, I won't. It was 19 hours that I would have to complete so that I could go to Tennessee. And I was like, but that's like pretty close, And
Mhm.
so I continued this whole process. And then as I decided to pursue Tennessee, I actually tried to call my coach. He didn't answer. So I sent him a text and I was like, hey, thanks for the 2 years. It's been great. I'm out. And yeah, which I
To your
shouldn't
Mobile
have
coach?
even, yeah. And
Cool.
because also like, oh, there's so much that can go into that summer in its own, but just to stay on track, like I knew that was wrong, but I also felt like at the time, I didn't realize I didn't want to face him to kind of own up to
Mhm.
not listening to everybody around me. So, and then, so I decided to do Tennessee. I tell him I'm going for it. Thanks for the 2 years. It's been lovely. I'm out. And 3 days later, I'd gotten some more information, from my parents, and I told them, I was like, had I known this, I would have never even looked at Tennessee,
Mhm.
like that would have never even been in the question. But now that I do know that, now what am I supposed to do? So I texted my coach back and I was like, hey, so I'm really sorry. Would you have me back? I love Mobile, and his reaction, because he calls me right away and he says, go get your classes back, meet me at the locker room. And I was like, okay. So I go get my classes back and I go to the locker room and we sit out on the patio. And crazy enough, we didn't talk about soccer like at all. We
Mhm.
talked about life and my relationship with the Lord, how in this entire process, doors weren't opening. I was like slipping through the window, trying to make this work,
Mhm. Yeah,
and
that's a good way to
real,
put it.
yeah. And I was like sneaking out, like a kid. And it's crazy because, like I said, we didn't talk about the game at all. That's really the big reason I'm there at Mobile, is to play soccer. But that conversation did so much more than I think he really realized. I only sent him a text maybe 3 or 4 months ago about that, coming back full circle from that conversation. Like, you have no idea how much you changed my life, because really that was the first time out of all the years of sports where I had a coach sit down and say, like, you have so much to show like people, and you have no idea like what you have to give. And the reason you were called to a program like this is so that we can help guide you. Tennessee wouldn't guide you in this way.
Right.
You know,
You're just another prophet there.
Yeah, you're just another number. You get entered, see you later. And like I said, Mobile completely changed my life. So as I come to the end of my senior year, I decided to go try out for Houston Dash, just because one of my rival, competitors throughout the years was like, hey, I'm going, you want to drive with me? I was like, why not? I got a weekend to kill. I ended up making the Dash, and I was like, oh.
Which is a professional women's team in the United States. For those that don't know.
Yeah, and in the NWSL, and I was like, oh my God, I don't even know if I'll be done with my classes. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't even I was just going to have a fun weekend. And now, okay, if they're willing to have me, I probably could do this. I always thought if I didn't go Division I, it was out,
Right.
And so I went to Houston. It was very short-lived, but like, that opportunity showed me, like, if I can keep up with them, then I can do it anywhere. Honestly, the only thing that I would say I really lacked was the tactics when I came to Houston, because in AIA, you play your system and you go, like, that's just it. And with Houston, it was very tactical from the jump. And I remember just sitting there and I was like, man, I am a moron compared to these people, because I have no idea what is happening, just because it was so much information. So Houston let me go, and I actually took a year off from the game. I was like, I need to figure out if this is really even what I want to do. Was I just like tempted with that opportunity because it was kind of like right there, or like, what was this? So the agent I had at the time had even sent me to Sweden for a week, and I came right back because I was like scared. I was like, I don't know about this. I'm good. And so I took the year off. And when I saw the girl I was competing against at Houston starting for the Spirit, I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. Are you joking me? So I took I was actually going through all these trials again, like I did at Houston, and it just like wasn't working out. I went back to the Dash, and they actually didn't take anybody that year. It was just to make some money, unfortunately. I went to New Jersey when they were originally called Gotham. They're now, oh my God, what are they? No, they are Gotham FC. That's what they're called now. They were Sky Blue. And yeah, and the coach actually calls me after the trial, and she said, hey, I think you should be playing in the NWSL, but we just signed Mal Pugh. And I was like, yeah, you take Mal Pugh. She sells jerseys. That's cool. I get it.
Yeah.
Respectable. Yeah. And no one knows me. And then I go to the Spirit, and my agent at the time told them I was a holding mid. I'm a winger, and I was like, well, this is a bust of a week. So when it came to, so I just finished out the week anyways. When I got to Thursday, I remember at like nearly 1 a.m, I was like, okay, we're going to have this conversation, big guy. What's the deal? Like, you've put this, on me that I'm supposed to be doing this. So like, where am I supposed to be? Like, what do you want me to do? Because I'll listen, whatever that journey is, that's fine. And send me wherever you want, wherever you think I'm needed, that's where I'll go. I kid you not, I got a text 10 minutes later from this coach in Sweden that I hadn't talked to in a year. And he sends it and says, hey, we have a spot for you. We just got promoted to Elitatan, and you should come join us this season. And I remember reading it, and I turned my phone over and I looked back up and I was like, why? We've talked about this. I don't want to go to Sweden, and I tell you, like, me and the Lord, I say we argue. I really speak to him, and then he just like, come on now. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. You're right.
Yes.
We do that often.
Yes. We understand.
And so when that happened,
but that's the relationship. That's good stuff.
Yes,
Yes.
we're honest. We are honest with each
Yes.
other. And, so when that happened, I was like, I've already been there before. This is not anything like the NWSL. What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do besides kick a ball there? And before this opportunity really came to life, like when I had to go, I told myself, I was like, hey, when I go, knowing that this country is like mainly atheist, if I can at least have a conversation with one person, forget the minutes, if I can have a conversation with one person, I'll count it as a win. And I had my trials the first few months there. I really did. My head coach that brought me over got fired 3 weeks later. The girls didn't really speak English, only like 2 of them. And the other ones knew English, but weren't comfortable really speaking it up front. So I was like by myself, like a lot, like a ton. I got a lot of me time that I'd never had before. So I had to get good with me. And about 2-3 months in, I kid you not, we're actually talking about like tattoos and stuff. And I told one of the girls, and crazy enough, I have my journal from when I was in Sweden, and I went back to see if I wrote about it. I did. And I had said, like, I think I'm going to get a tattoo within the next couple weeks. Because I feel it's my job to share the word while I'm here. I've been thinking about it for a while. So I'm going to get a cross behind my ear, so that I can start conversations about Christianity. Even if it's just people in the paper that see it, they start a conversation, even if I'm not around. And so we're on the bus talking about it. And I tell one of the girls, yeah, I'm going to get this next week. And it starts the conversation. She's like, so you believe in like the Adam and Eve thing? I'm like, yep, sure do. She's like, wow, and it just was like little conversations like that, but it continued for the rest of the season. And I got a chance to speak with every single one of those girls on the team without starting it. And like had like even the one girl that spoke English, really good conversation, like in depth, like battling it out, because she's like, how do you believe in that? I was like, we can do this if you want. Like it was good conversation, like, but respectful at the same time. And I'd never really been challenged like that either. Like I've always been around people that believe in the Lord. And this is the first time I was like, ooh, new challenge. Okay. But like a good, healthy challenge, and not like, I'm going to make you believe what I believe, but like, I respect what you're saying, and you can hear where I'm coming from too, and that was so healthy for me to be challenged in that way, and not just in the same bubble, in the same comfortability. I was getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I loved it. And that season absolutely changed things as far as like conversation with people. And I've kind of taken that into every season now. So after Sweden ended, I somehow ended up here in Iceland from another agent, because the guy I had before was apparently messing some things up. So this guy over here was going to help. And he was like, I got people in Iceland. I was like, all right. And so ended up here. I've played in the north. So travel wise, like to Iceland, or like flights, like
Sweden to Iceland, I guess,
travel wise, like it shaves about half a day or so travel wise. I would say like time difference, I think we're 2 hours apart. So I was 7 hours apart, and now I'm 5 hours ahead of everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's honestly helped like a ton, because I can like talk to my family every day, and like my friends, we can do a podcast. Because that was the other thing, is when I was in Sweden, I really didn't get time to talk to my friends in the States, because it was really difficult when they were getting off work. I'm like, guys, it's midnight, good night, and my day starts and everyone's still asleep. So I was like, oh my God.
So on top of being alone and nobody speaking English, you couldn't talk to anybody at home either.
Right.
Exactly. And, honestly, that time in my life, I cherish so much, because that is the most alone I was ever going to be. And it gave me so much time to have a new like fire and desire for the Lord, because it was just me and him all the time. Don't know if he got tired of me, but we had a lot of time together, and it was but it was great. Like I like even just like quickly trying to find that little note in here. I'm reading back on some of the things that I wrote, and I'm like, wow, I was so reliant on you then, like the Lord. Like we literally talked almost every day. Even it, like I wrote it down, not that we don't talk every day, we do, but like really just spending more time, because I had that availability. I literally had so much time to figure out how dedicated I wanted to be past all this other stuff, and it really just allowed me to really just embrace my relationship with the Lord to a completely different level. And I had choices. I could have gone, or watched Netflix all day or done Sudoku or puzzles. I don't know what else to do, but I could have, whatever that was.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to have so much more time with God that I won't ever have just that amount of rest time to just be so present with him in such a unique part of my life.
Right.
So,
well, praise
yeah,
God you had that relationship, because imagine somebody in that position that didn't have something to turn to when there was nothing else.
Right.
And especially in a community that's atheist.
Right.
No telling.
Yeah.
So I guess my question for you is, what kind of pushback did you get from being and going into that environment? Because I'm sure you did get some,
Oh yeah, it was a lovely time. So not only was I a Christian, but it was 2020 when the election was going on. So it was like a double whammy for me with
Right.
everybody. They all wanted my opinion on things and who was I voting for? How do you feel about, gun violence? And do you believe in abortion? Like it was like 0 to 100, like no chill. Especially
I
because
didn't
like
realize they would be so involved in the United States election. Do they laugh at us now?
A little bit,
You
but
can-
a little bit,
Laugh at us.
but honestly though, like I had to do ambassador hours is what they're called. So like basically like volunteer work for part of my contract. And with that, they wanted me to go and speak to an English class here or there in town in San Beacon. And me and the teachers met before, like, hey, what would this be like? Like, what kind of questions are you wanting them to ask? Like, I thought we were on the same page. We were not, because the minute I got there, I just speak to 5 classes of like at least 50, 60 kids. And it was just open question and answer for 15 and 16-year-olds. And they hit quick with, how do you feel about weed? How do you feel about this? And I was like, whoa, like, how about you ask, like, what do you do when you're 16 in the States? Oh, you go to the movies or mall? That's a great idea. No, they went straight for, how do you feel about Trump? Like, boom, in my face. And I was like, oh my Lord. I was sweating. Thank God I wore black, because I was sweating right away with the questions that they were asking me. But that was a moment though as well that I could stand up and say what I believe and not just be a people pleaser,
Mhm.
So it gave me a very unique opportunity as well to voice what I believe in my opinion, because we did have questions about Christianity. And I was like, yes, I am a Christian. Non-denominational is the church that I would fall under. And that is where I stand. And the kids were like, what? Because it sounds crazy, but bear with me. I totally understand why these kids at that age are so confused, because from grade 3 to 9, they learn about every religion. And the idea about it is they actually have classes all the way through grade 3 to 9. They learn about every religion so that they can be respectful of one another. And that's the intention behind it. But it makes total sense why there's so many questions and questioning of Christianity, because when they're at that age, it is so pivotal for them. Like we remember going into high school, we were like, what, And so before all that, having to take in all of that information to be respectful of everybody, and then to be like, what is real? They haven't had that time to be like, what is real? What do I actually believe? So it makes total sense. But I would say, like, following back to the question of like pushback, at first, my first like few months, I know 100% the girls that could speak a little bit of English chose probably not to, because they were worried that I would force my beliefs on them. So instead of being confrontational, you're only here for a little bit, and then you're back to the States. So we'll just coast it out. But when they saw the conversation about like the tattoo, what I believe, and how I wasn't aggressive coming back to say like what I believe, or how I handled the questions that they gave me, they were a bit more open to asking, why do you believe that? And not being offended with what I say. And so that made it so much more open for conversation. because I do think that there is a stereotype with, some of the people from the States that come over and try to push these beliefs on people instead of meeting them where they're at. I don't think that's very common. And for instance, even last year, the season that I had here at this club, we had our third foreigner was American, super Christian, but didn't know really how to meet people to have a conversation. It turned most of these girls away because of how she handled the first conversation. And like, I was trying to help her out. I was really trying to, but she just kept like going, you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't help her back out, and I appreciate how like passionate she is on her points. But at the time in the conversation, I watched it go too far and completely just shut off, because even those girls haven't even asked me questions like since when they were kind of curious, so I feel like that is a huge thing, is the stereotype of people from the States not being able to meet people where they're at truly. And that's why there's this pushback right away.
We have that issue here though, too.
Yeah. And if you think about the way Jesus met people, like he met Mary Magdalene at the bar. He met Matthew at the tax booth. Like he met the woman at the well, like alone as she was trying to hide from people. Like he wasn't going to he knew these people probably had no clue or like thought there was no saving them. But he just met them where they were. He didn't judge them in any way or force anything. He just loved them, And so that's how we have to be as well. When we think about what would Jesus do, he'd sit down with them wherever they're at, Yeah. So it's good.
And that's a huge thing. You're spot on, is being able to meet them where they're at. I've actually got a teammate. She tore her ACL last week. And so we're sitting there together because I'm currently injured, and we're having chats here and there. Granted, I do have almost 10 years on the girl, so I've got a little bit more experience, but we're chatting about how I view how to handle injuries and how important it is when you're in this process to talk about your feelings. I think when players get injured, they feel kind of forgotten about because we're so focused here now. And so I was like, you have to make sure that you're still chatting. You're still open to conversation. If it's a bad day, you tell someone it's a bad day. That's okay, and I'm giving her all this advice, and she's like, why do you always seem so wise? And why do I feel like you're going to be my therapist, and all that. And she said that today. And I was like, listen, I'm not going to be your therapist. Like, I've been there, done that. But like, you're always welcome to talk to me. You're always welcome to voice whatever you need to through this. And she was like, but why are you always so like nice and happy all the time? Like, what is that? And I was like, I was like, I think it's because I have a really good relationship with the Lord. Maybe that's why, like, you feel that way about me. And I was like, because I'm not always happy. Like, I have days. I'm not perfect. And she was like, no, but like, you really just like, you're so thoughtful with people, and you understand, and like, you're trying to like understand where I'm coming from and all this. And like, I really appreciate that. I've never had that. And I was like, one, that's like super sad. Like that I've encountered that so many times, crazy enough. There's at least one or two girls per team I played with on my pro teams that have come up to me after a season and be like, I've never been like so like thought about, or someone been so nice or encouraging to me. And I'm like, that just, one, breaks my heart, but two, like reassuring to me that they are seeing something different with me, and they're going to ask the question, why is that? Like, it happened today. And then I can say, oh, because my relationship with the Lord. And then there's that conversation, because again, here, I would say like, not that many people are actually religious here, truly, with how the lifestyle is. I wouldn't say actually religious. And so it does spark the conversation, especially like, because we were talking about my tattoo again today. And she was like, oh, yeah, I've seen that a few times. I've always wondered. And I'm like, you can just ask me whatever questions you want whenever you're ready. Bring them on. And she's like, I'm gonna come back. So like, it is, it always is it's a conversation piece, but there is that willingness to have the conversation, as long as you're willing to meet them, not this overbearing right off the jump,
Yeah.
you know.
And I like how you said, whenever you're ready, like I'll be here. And that's all we are seriously, all we're called to do is just plant those little seeds, you know, and then God will do the work in them. And then maybe they'll come and ask, because they'll experience something and be like, was that what she was talking about?
Right.
You know? And so I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been such a blessing. Like, I mean, yeah, the dream was to always like, you know, go and play somewhere and continue after and all that. But honestly, just being able to be put in these situations or to be put in these moments and opportunities to be able to talk to somebody maybe who's never heard this or can really understand where they're coming from has been incredible. Like, it's been worth all the minutes, all the injuries, all the flights, random housing situations I've been in, all of it. It's been totally worth it because I know that these conversations are going to do something. Like, for instance, back to Sweden, the girl that I probably like, not like, you know, duked it out with the most, but like had like the most challenging conversations on because she's so headstrong on her point. And I was like, listen here, Buster, you know, back and forth. She talks to me every 2 weeks still. You know what I mean? She still checks in. A lot of it is videos of Biden it being ridiculous, but we still, you know, we still catch up on our conversations, you know, about where she's at. Does she have questions? We still do check in. And that's incredible considering the girl I met was like, no, like from the beginning, because she was like, you're a Christian, you're like one of them. Ugh. You know, and it sounds so bad to say it like that, but they're so like I don't know, like PTSD from like
That
past
stigma.
Christians.
Yeah.
So
how long have you been in Iceland?
this is my 3rd year in Iceland. Oh my God, I've been doing this too long now. I've been playing soccer too long.
How long do you plan on being there?
We've actually talked about living here, you know, staying here for a while. And just, you know, we love how safe it is here and how much good we can do here. Honestly, I can see it with the club that I'm working at now. I've started coaching 12-year-olds or U12s, and just such a difference with that group alone. Like, it
just to be a light in their life. Yeah.
And there's not a lot of female coaches. There's just not. And so that's kind of what I want to do after is coaching. Maybe it's not full time like the original thought was, because I've started doing like social media marketing now and some of this other stuff, and it's kind of pulling my attention a little bit. So I might step into that a little, but I really want to do coaching. I think I can do a lot of good and be a positive voice for some of these kids, because you know this as a soccer player, we always think of the negative right away, not always just the positive, you know, not positives. It's always, I did all this wrong. Yeah, I had a goal, but I did all this wrong. And it doesn't have to be that. You know what I mean? Like, I get being competitive with yourself, but there's got to be some positives in this. And if I can think back to my youth,
you get burnt out.
Or else you get burnout. Exactly. And when I think back to my youth soccer, I think of Bill Hawkins, and he was incredible. He was the first soccer coach I ever had, and he made such a difference, not just like one allowing me to like join the team, but the way that he spoke with me, the honesty he had behind it, the care he had for all of us, like changed. Like, I started to fall in love with the game, you know, and he was right there with me to be like, I'm going to help you catch up, because I didn't start playing until I was 11 or 12.
Which is another thing I was going to ask you about is, so most people who play at the college level and then go, especially those that go on to play pro, they start about at the time they can walk, you know. I started at 4 years old. And so the fact that you started at 13, 14, whatever you said, is wild. And it's just almost like it was just part of the plan, you know?
Exactly.
How do you feel about that?
I'm honestly so thankful that I did not start when I was 4 or 5 years old. I've questioned, I'm like, you know, I've questioned like, what kind of soccer player would I have been had I started so young? You know, but honestly, like I'm honestly so thankful that I didn't start till I was a bit later behind the game, because it was the first time I got to choose, really. Like, my parents always were like, you choose whatever sport you want to do, you know, all that.
Right. And you did other sports before.
Yeah,
soccer.
I had played softball, baseball, inline speed skating. I did golf at one point. There's probably another sport in there somewhere. They were very like, go for it, do it, try it.
Mhm.
And the only reason I went to a soccer tryout was because I didn't have softball practice one night. My mom was like, "Hey, there's a soccer tryout. You want to do it?" I was like, "Why not?" So like I tried out in American football, not soccer, American football cleats, shin guards with no socks, basketball shorts, and a tournament t-shirt. And they were like, "You're fast. We'll teach you how to play soccer." And I was like,
Yeah. At that age, all you got to do is kick it past everyone else, and the fast girl goes after it. That's all you got to do
"Exactly.
to be good at that age. That was my goal.
Exactly.
That was my game plan.
Hey, you were a stud at it." But it's crazy because yeah, all the time before I done all these other sports, and when I tried out for soccer again, it was kind of like the dash. I was like, we'll see what happens, have a good evening,
Mhm.
like meet new
Yeah.
people. And then I got offered a spot and I'm like, now what, like now what does this mean? And my parents were like, hey, you have to actually pick softball, soccer, the schedules are too conflicting, like we can't do it all. And then I'm so like glad that like I probably only had like at the time like one good idea of the day, because my college friends joke about that all the time. I only have like one good idea a day. And my good idea of the day was, hey, I can always go back to softball. I might not get to try soccer again. Why not?
Mm.
And so I tried soccer, and I think that the competitor in me at the time looked at all like the new teammates and they were like, oh, she's just fast. She can't really like
Yeah.
keep up with us. And I was like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. Like a new like competitor in me just like came out, was like, I'm gonna
Mhm.
catch everybody. But at the same
Yeah.
time, this is the one sport my parents didn't know anything about. So they couldn't tell me what to do. And it sounds
Yeah.
so bad. It sounds so bad because my parents were awesome when it came to like, supporting us in our
Mhm.
sports. My mom was the softball coach, my dad was the baseball coach, skating. She's got the orange slices ready between races, whatever. But this was the one sport like they didn't have a clue on. And I was like, I can do my own thing. And I
Yeah.
loved it. And it gave me the opportunity to just like take the wheel and like challenge myself as much as I wanted to. Do I want to do this, and kind of pick that. No one's telling me, hey, you need to go by yourself, don't try to pass, just go to goal. No one, my parents weren't telling me that because they don't know what offsides is. They couldn't tell
Mhm.
me left from right, what press we were doing. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it. And had I started when I was 4 or 5, at that point, they would have figured things out. But when I was like
Mhm.
11, when you start at like 11, 12, you're still in the 9v9, and then you bump to 11v11, and then it's just crazy. Like there's too many other
Mhm.
things juggling around now.
Like
So
the
like,
hardest transition of my life.
what do you think so?
Going to 11 vehicles. I remember that being a huge culture shock to me because I couldn't outrun everybody on that big field.
Really? What do you mean you got way
Like,
more space, way more time to leave them?
I don't know. I just remember that was a shock to me. This is a big old fit. There's a lot of running right here.
There we go. It's a lot of running right there.
Yeah.
This is way more fitness than I signed up for. Yeah. Like, and see, like I didn't really have that. I don't feel like I had that big of a shock because I only played like 9v9 for a year, and then
Right.
I was like, all right, let's do it. Bigger field, longer passes. Let's see what happens. Like I didn't have like the knowledge also behind it to be like, oh my God, we have 2 extra players now. Whoa.
Right.
Like I didn't know. Like I was barely figuring out which way we were going, and that we switched to halves at that point. Like which side. So I might have dribbled the wrong way. It was still so new, but like I was so driven to like catch up with the tactics and the technical ability. And I noticed that the girls weren't really doing like scissors and step overs. And I was like, ooh, this could be like my thing. Cause then also like they might not be able to tell me what to do. And it sounds like so defiant when I'm describing this now, but like I just liked being able to be creative and competitive and be better at something and have that distance between like, okay, I can do this, So yeah, like I'm so thankful that I started late, honestly, because had I started 3 or 4, like, or 4 or 5, whatever age they start, I don't really know.
You may have
I'd be
burned
living
out
in
your
Iceland.
freshman year like I did.
But like, rightfully so, though. Like, I totally understand. I do. And I think had I not gone to Mobile and I'd gone to a bigger school, it would have happened to me. Like, I'm so thankful Mobile, like the coaches, or yeah, I guess coaches at the time, were so thoughtful about the players and who we were going to become after university, not just the 4 years and the results and the games and the goals, but who are we going to be when we leave this university? How are we going to represent this program? How can they impact our life? You know, and like my head coach's wife was so involved with us. Casey was like a second mom to me, sometimes felt like a first mom to me, you know, and as she and Brian, you know, live their life for the Lord and like to share the word and to be a light. And I had never actively lived in an environment like that. And that's not to like knock my family by any means, but like really live it out every day was the first time that had ever happened. So Casey was amazing. And she spent so much time with not just like me, but like the girls, like the team. We would have like team Bible study and stuff. Like, yes, it was a private Christian school, but like that was a choice. That was not mandatory. And we all be shown up, you know. So had I gone to, you know, a big school where you're just a number, I wouldn't be living in Iceland right now. That's for sure.
Right.
So, yeah.
Nice. Got any questions?
No.
Thank you for listening to Be the Light podcast. You can catch us every Thursday on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And as always, you can always email in at bethelightpod@gmail.com. We love ya.